A Meme for Money by Randall Wray. Alternative Framing on Inflation. The question is not about affordability, but rather concerns effects on the value of the currency and impacts on the pursuit of private interest. As Stephanie Kilton says, cash registers do not discriminate. They do not care whether that dollar comes from government spending or private spending. If something is in scarce supply, more purchases of it by either government or private buyers might push up the price. A government purchase of something that is scarce can crowd out a private purchase. Government purchases need to be and can be planned to avoid undesired crowding out and price measures and price pressures. Where the public purpose trumps the private purpose, say use of rubber in World War II, government has at its disposal a number of options to reduce price pressure, including patriotic propaganda and rationing. It also has the big gun, taxes. An excise tax raises the cost to private buyers. An income tax reduces disposable income to free up production for the public purpose. In those cases, the tax hike keeps the currency strong. It is not needed to pay for the government spending, but to avoid the crippling effects of high inflation. Progressive taxes can be justified on the basis that higher income people pose a much greater inflation threat than do low income people. Cash registers don't discriminate. Rich folk take more dollars to market, and their spending cannot be planned, budgeted, coordinated in the way that government spending is done. And their spending is largely discretionary, not essential to daily life. Indeed, as one group of rich folk ramps up conspicuous consumption, another rich folk take up the challenge. When resources are scarce, taxes on the rich need to be raised to protect the currency. We don't tax the rich to pay for government spending. Government is not in the position of Robin Hood. We never need rich folks' money in order to provide for the poor. We can keystroke the bank accounts of the poor so that they won't be poor. We increase taxes on the rich only when their spending threatens our currency with inflation. Linking the two operations only reduces public support for helping the poor, and it's confusing, and it's operationally wrong. Progressives must stop linking the two. That only plays into the hands of the conservatives. The rich also are much more likely to endanger the currency's value by pulling out of the domestic currency and running to safe havens at the first sign of inflation, as they are doing in Argentina now, creating pressures on the currency that raise inflation fears and fuel a cascading run out of pesos and into dollars. We need progressive taxes and inheritance taxes to protect our currency from antisocial behavior by the rich. There is also a strong argument to be made for using taxes on the rich, especially capital gains taxes, to discourage sins of various kinds: the sin of speculative excess, the sin of usury, the sin of conspicuous consumption of prestigious goods and services, and the sin of excess inequality. Most important, the goal of taxing the rich has nothing to do with raising government revenue. Taxes are used to keep the currency strong and to punish sin. An ideal sin tax raises no revenue because it eliminates sin. While we cannot achieve that ideal, we can make sin less enjoyable. It is fitting that those who already enjoy all the benefits of life at the top ought to suffer more when they are sinful. Don't tax the sin of the worker who enjoys the occasional six-pack of brew. Go after the real sinners, those with the wherewithal to engage in truly antisocial sinning, speculative in consumption excess.